All right, guys. So I am doing a submission for the Footprints and Milestone project. And today I'm going to be talking to you about my rainbow flip-flops that I purchased 8 years ago when I was living in Jacksonville, Florida. In Jacksonville, I grew up. I was born and raised there. I was currently in my last 2 years of college. I had worked at Publix grocery stores this whole time I was still working there, and I was working at ESPN at the time. And that had started as an internship and it had turned into a job, but I had worked my way out fairly quickly. I purchased I purchased a house fairly recent to this too, and had redone it, and things seemed that they could never be better. But the issue was I was dealing with a crippling addiction problem on top of all these things. I honestly don't even know how I was doing so well at everything that I was doing seemingly well from. It probably wasn't as good as I thought it was. But anyway, I tell you this story with the flip-flops because I did purchase them in the heat of this, and they have been with me since. And during this year, I had 2 interventions done, and my life turned upside down for all the good reasons. I just didn't know it at the time. My first intervention was a family and friends kind of deal. I was able to manipulate my way out of it. Addict, I was good at it, but it held some weight too. I had worked up in ESPN quite quick, and in my fantasy world, I was going to be working for the NFL in the next 2 years when I graduated college. I was going to get the girl, I was going to get the job and the money and the house, and all these things somehow were going to fix this drinking problem I had literally hidden under the rug. But after that first intervention that I had talked my way out of, I was good for about a month, and then I hung out with a friend actually in these flip-flops and got very intoxicated. Some substances were involved as well. He was very close with my family. He was a very dear, close friend of mine, and he kind of ratted me out, not knowing that I had had an intervention previously, and I knew the jig was up. So I immediately started binge drinking in the house that I had redone, and about a week of that went by, and the actual intervention came. I woke up to my door getting banged on by cops, and that wasn't, to give you some backstory, that wasn't super unusual. I had bought this house in an up-and-coming neighborhood. I was trying to be smart, and there was construction and contracting going on all over the place. So cops stopping by at my house to ask about, suspects, vehicles, stolen goods, if I knew anything about it, was not outlandish. And I opened the door, and of course, my camera that I had, you can only see these cops. My family and I had a couple friends that I love dearly too. I was so mad at them, but my friends and family are off to the side out of the camera view because they knew. And they come on in with these cops, which was offensive to me because I didn't think I was that angry of a drunk. But, I don't think that was the point of it. I think the point was to give me the ultimatum of, you're either homeless or you're going to rehab right now. We're out of the house. That being said, I remember packing my things up. I remember putting these flip-flops on. It's Florida. It's the summer. I don't wear anything else. And I remember tugging on the cop's pants thinking that he was like a male stripper or something. I was still hungover and maybe a little drunk at the time. So, that was not so funny when I walked out and there was a SWAT vehicle in my driveway. I felt pretty silly about that. But of course, in the heat of the moment, funny now. But anyway, I took off. I went to the nearest gas station, and I bought 2 Four Locos, the cheap things. They were less than $2 each. And I went and found a a bridge basically to drink these Four Locos under. my tolerance was very high, so they didn't really do that much. I remember sitting under that bridge just hoping that I wasn't in some homeless man's spot. And of course, a couple hours in, not only did I realize I was probably too soft to be homeless, but it started torrentially storming and downpouring on me. And I'm under the bridge, but you know, as somebody who hasn't been homeless, yeah, it was a scary situation. So I waited for it to let up, and I went home to hopefully convince my mother. I'm a mother's boy, I'm a mama's boy. So I was hoping that I could get her back on my side without this interventionist in the way that I definitely disliked. Only to find my mom would not open the door for me, and she handed me the landline, which I guess she had plugged in. We haven't had a landline in years in that house, so she must have plugged it in. And she slipped it under and said, call this number. It had a sticky note and the interventionist number. God, I did not like her at all, but I didn't have an option. I was too soft to be homeless. I had no idea how to do it, and I did have this issue. And I called the number, and basically was in rehab the next day. Bypassed really even going to detox. I mean, it was hectic. It was quick. It's quick. Let's just go do it. And it ended up being one of the best things to ever happen to me, because I'm good friends with that interventionist now. She really did help save my life. So did my parents. So did those friends that were involved in the whole process. But I wanted to tell that story because I think it's just a testament to, how much can change so quickly. I thought I was on top of the world, and I was at rock bottom. Things were so horrible. I was using, a breakup with a girlfriend to fuel my addiction. Like, I remember being devastated. I dated this girl for years and thought she was the one, when obviously there were like things that were just like not okay because of me. And I remember being excited afterward because it was another excuse for me to indulge in the drinking behaviors that I was behaving in. And I thought, oh, well, now I don't have to hide it as much because I have an excuse. My girlfriend just broke up with me, amongst like a bunch of other things like shame and making a fool of myself. But just as an example, I mean, things were really bad. And I remember, because I had the privilege of having Instagram at the time and social media, and you could see all those things on Instagram. You see the mountain bikers, the GoPro athletes, the Red Bull Rampage, like all these, Havasu Falls, people, jumping off cliffs and living their best life. And I remember as a person who I am, I remember just being infatuated with that. Like, oh God, I want that so bad, but it'll never happen. And I actually went to a rehab in Colorado, and I did a year of treatment there, and it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and thankful for it. But it put me around people that did all those things. And I remember just random points in time putting these flip-flops on and thinking, wow, look how far I've come. And it hasn't even been a decade. I know for younger people, it seems like just a couple months is so much time, but how far I feel like I've come in the past 7 years. And to look at these flip-flops, I look at them when I get off from backcountry skiing. I put these flip-flops on for comfort, after being on the resort skiing, after mountain biking. I think the most recent example that I can give is I was out in Moab for my birthday with my partner, and the weather was horrible. It was so bad, and it's my birthday, and just all the things that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I remember looking at my flip-flops, and it was towards the end of the trip, and just thinking, wow, this should be so horrible, and yet we've made such a good trip out of this, out of nothing. And just reminding myself of where I was once, and how those same flip-flops have been through all of this whole journey with me. And I think it's just a testament to how much things can change, especially right now when things just feel like they're never going to get better and they're just horrible and there's no way up and there's no reason to fight for something better, all the things. I mean, things are hard right now, and I just think it's a good one, and it's a good story to tell with my rainbow flip-flops. I still got a new pair, but of just how good things can get with just a little bit of work. And I definitely have put my work in with these flip flops, and I have created a life that I could have only dreamed of. And sometimes I still have trouble. I have a lot of successful friends, and that's a compliment to them. And I am behind because of the addiction, but that's okay. That's okay. Everybody starts and finishes and does things in different ways, and that's okay. My story is unique and it's mine, and I don't think I would be who I am today, not even close. I don't think I would have a healthy relationship with a partner if I hadn't have been through what I went through. And I think that's just so special. So yeah, that's gonna be my story about my rainbow flip flops.